Hi, everybody, and welcome to Word Affinity, a podcast which has everything to do with words. I'm your host, Sarah Singh Bisht, and today's episode is part 2 of the Clash of the series. So, last time we judged the books in logic, consistency, and believability in their settings. Today, we are going to judge them in 2 more rounds and finally recognize one winner. Let's start. So, the second criteria these series are going to be judged on is logic, consistency, and believability in plot. So, what does that mean? Yeah, both these books are high fantasies, which means that they are set in an imaginary world created by the author. High fantasy books usually have a thrilling or dangerous quest which the main characters go on, and the readers are often hooked onto the plot because of the expectancy to see what's coming next and the adrenaline. Even then, the characters' actions during the book must always be consistent with their personalities and should lead to further developments in the plot. So, last time we discussed Harry Potter first, this time we'll start with Narnia. There are 4 main characters in the book: Peter, Susan, Edmund, and Lucy Pevensie. Yes, they are brother and sisters and they accidentally stumble across Narnia. They eventually go on to rule Narnia and bring peace to the land after 100 years under the tyrannical White Witch Jadis. If you ask me, out of the 4, the character who undergoes the least change is Lucy. But she's also the best character out of all 4 and didn't need to change much, according to my opinion. Peter, the eldest of the 4 siblings, a 14-year-old boy when he first enters Narnia with his siblings in The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, he becomes High King of the land and rules for about 15 years, after which the 4 return to their own world the same age as before. During the books, Peter becomes more mature and dependable. He also improves in sword fighting, archery, and other arts needed to become a good king. Edmund Pevensie, a surly English schoolboy at the starting, matures a lot and becomes brave, selfless, and an altogether better person. I think he is the character that underwent the most change out of all. Then there's Susan, who is the most practical out of the 4. She is said to be too skeptical for her own good, and she needs proof before acting. And at first, she also disbelieves Lucy when Lucy tells her siblings about Narnia. Eventually, this skepticism turns into a complete loss of belief in Narnia. She becomes more involved in her own world, and as she grows old, she sees the Narnian adventures as childish imaginings. No longer a friend of Narnia, Susan is the only member of her family not killed in the train wreck at the conclusion of the series. And yes, their mother and father were killed in the train wreck too. While her family enters Aslan's country, Narnia's heaven, Susan goes on living her mundane, worldly life. Even though there is no single quest in the story, the books are quite appealing and you get hooked on the story from the first page only. The characters do not show abnormal, drastic changes, which is believable because nobody becomes a kind person from a spoiled brat in one day. The bad guys are great too. I always feel that the antagonists of a story should be the best designed characters of all because they are the ones that hook the readers the most, from my experience. Some of the bad guys in Narnia were hilarious, like Prince Rabidash and the Tisrook, and some were straight up horrible people like Jadis, but they were all fun to read about. So that was all for Narnia. Let's go on to Harry Potter. The main characters? Who doesn't know? Hermione, Harry, and Ron. So I searched a few pages, and do you know that Hermione is actually more known and more searched about than Harry? She is also considered a feminist icon and one of the most iconic characters of all time. I went on a few pages and saw that she comes in the top 5 most loved fictional characters of all time and has more votes by readers than her male counterparts. But then, after all, she is the brightest witch of her age. On the outside, she might seem like an annoying perfectionist who reads all the books before class and gets the best grade, but there's more to her than just bookish knowledge. Hermione is brave, resourceful, and adaptable. She's also good-natured and always stands by her friends. And let's be honest, we all know that Harry and Ron would have died by the second year if it wasn't for her intelligence. But Harry and Ron aren't dumb idiots either. Harry, as we all know, the only person to have survived Lord Voldemort, started out as an curious, ignorant young boy and slowly matured into an independent, smart individual. He gets to know people who become very close to him, like his two best friends Ron and Hermione, and his godfather Sirius Black, who help and care about him. Harry is also immensely heroic, but sometimes can be too reckless like his godfather. Ron, well, he's just the lovable character that is there in every story. But that doesn't mean he doesn't have a character, because he does. He's loyal, dependent, and fun to hang out with. He can be moody and jealous sometimes, but you know you can trust him with your life. He is also the most logistically minded out of the three, excelling at wizard chess. Now, don't get me started on the antagonist because that will take another episode, but I'll try in short. Even though the main villain in the series is Voldemort, no character is more hated in the HP universe than stupid, irritating, horrible Professor Umbridge. I hate her so much. She gives me more nightmares than anything has ever given me. But Umbridge is amazingly designed. In fact, so well that you feel like punching the book so you can break her nose. I think this round got too long because I had a lot of stuff to discuss and couldn't edit it out, so that was all for today. Stay tuned for the part 3 of this epic showdown of the worlds. If you like this podcast, make sure to rate, review, and follow us. If you're listening on YouTube, please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for listening. Bye!